When one show falls, the other one rises. And this is about the Equalizer TV show getting canceled after 5 seasons and The Little House on the Prairie getting rebooted by, of course, Netflix. So expect some shenanigans there. All right, let me briefly touch on Equalizer because I'm mostly talking about Little House on the Prairie. Equalizer, I mean, this catastrophe of a TV show, an overweight middle aged woman playing some sort of action hero character. The fact that it lasted 5 seasons on network television, it really just solidifies why network television continues to die a very well deserving death. But nonetheless, uh, I saw in an article, or in this article, that they actually have plans for the future. So, maybe they're going to take it over to be on Paramount Plus exclusively. But anyway, the main event of this video is the Little House on the Prairie reboot. And of course, they're recasting the old crew from the 70s show, which went on for 9 seasons. Can you believe it? From 1974 to 1983. And one of the characters' name is Skywalker Hughes. Or is that the actor's name? Anyway, that's beside the point. The main thing is this is one of those shows that, of course, shouldn't be rebooted, doesn't need to be rebooted, and if anything, it should be continued. Because let's just imagine, it's let's say is well, 83 was the last year of the show, so let's relate it into the context of the years that the series was supposed to take place in, which it was adapted from a book, and it said that in the book the series begins in the late 1860s into the early 1870s and 1880s. And let's say the 9 seasons were represented 9 years of their journey. And so you could easily just pick up from, sort of where the show left off, or add or count the decades that have gone by since the show is canceled. Or I don't know if it was canceled. It probably just went off the air. Uh, so let's say 30, 40 years, after the show, let's say it concluded in the 1870s. So you pick up in the early 1900s, and that way you can bring back the the cast that's still living, and then you can cast younger people to play their descendants, and you could also cast sort of younger versions of themselves to recount those other years that didn't get covered during the run of the show, through things like flashbacks. So you could have it set in its current time, which would be in the early 19. And throughout the series, you can have stories being told to like the 1880s, 1890s period. But too much in what instead, more likely than not, Netflix is going to recast the show, add uh, a bit of modern day libtarded politics to it, and ruin it through reboot. As we've seen Hollywood in general do with the many countless things that they've rebooted and adapted from a movie into a TV series, an older movie into a newer TV series, or remade, prequelized, sequelized. I mean, they've been doing this obnoxiously for especially like the last 5 to 8 years. Because the main story takes place on a farm, so again, you could play, you could have narratives, newer narratives about farm life and the struggles to keep it going in the early 1900s. Especially if you run across Depression era times. And when you have some of those hard points in the farmland life, that's when you can bring in those flashbacks that comes from the existing, or who will then recount on tough moments that they had, which could lead to flashbacks, but also you know other stories that you add on that didn't get covered during the 9 seasons run. But anyway, I just thought I share my ideas. That's never going to happen, but that's why it's important that people are empowered or empower themselves to make their own stories, because these stories are supposed to take place throughout states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Kansas. And there's many pioneer settler stories to tell that can be told through series that doesn't have to rely on the Little House on the Prairie story, because there's so many of those stories to be told, which is why I'm more of an advocate of destroying Hollywood and then making quality filmmaking, especially harkening back to the 80s and 90s, like earlier, making Hollywood storytelling a nationwide industry where every single state has its own industry of storytelling. But anyway, that's all I have to say about this.